At this point, there's a lot of features you can add to this project in order to challenge yourself and test out your PHP chops. There could be some things that have already come to mind in working through this process for you, but let me list out a few items just to get you started as well. One thing you can do is build a simple permission system to allow users the ability to edit only particular types of content. So you might want to give some users the ability to administer users, whereas others just the ability to administer pages. To do this, you'll need to save some additional information about each user in the database. You'll need to add some features to the interface for working with users. And finally, you'll need to actually run those permission checks in the appropriate places. Another thing you can do is add support for additional field types inside of our CRUD script. So right now we have support for text inputs and text area inputs. What about adding support for checkboxes and select inputs and radio inputs as well? There are some settings in our settings.php file that we might want to expose to our end user. And so another challenge would be to create a settings page where we can allow the user to edit those settings and save those settings somewhere where we can retrieve them later on. You can also generalize this a bit and build a system where you can easily plug in additional settings. Another challenge, once you get that settings file complete, would be to simplify the interface for the end user for selecting the featured sticks. Right now that's stored as an array in the settings.php file, but it would be a lot easier if there was a select box, for example, or checkboxes that can be used in order to select the featured sticks, instead of having to reference them by their ID. One bug that we ran into with our script was after we logged in, the user links in the upper right-hand corner didn't display the correct links until the next page refresh. So for example, you'd click login, fill in the login form, and when you submitted it, it would still say login in the upper right-hand corner. Now this is just an ordering issue, so a challenge would be correcting this order issue to make sure that when a user logged in or logged out, that immediately the correct links showed up in that upper right-hand corner. Right now our contact form doesn't actually work, we just have inputs there, but based on what you've learned in this series, you should be able to make this contact form work in its entirety. You can actually build it into a real form and process the submission and even email that submission out. One thing you might want to expose to the users is the ability to edit the header menu items. That's where we currently see home, products, about, and contact. So there could be several different ways to allow the end user to manipulate this menu. One could be by adding settings to the individual pages to say, hey, we want to show this in the menu, or you can have a completely separate interface for building that menu. But the challenge here is to build some kind of system to allow the end user to manipulate what shows up in that menu.